All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahal, your friend in GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name, Rakah is spirit, Kodash is holy, Akyam is brothers, Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace, and Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. This is Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 26. And it reads, "And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city." Now this lesson is inspired by a statement that Elder Arawam in Birmingham says often, and that is that this is not for the average Israelite. All right. And when you think about how that relates to our nation, past and present, the Lord is restoring the judges as at the first. And when you think about us as a nation of people, there weren't just a handful of judges. All right. At every gate, there were judges. There were officials. All right. Matter of fact, let's go to Deuteronomy 16. I'm going to jump down to verse 18. And it reads, "Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment." So when you think about all the cities in ancient Israel, all of those cities had judges and officials, and that's not a small number of people. Now, I say that to say this through the spirit, that in the ancient world, the average Israelite, was keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, doing the sacrifices and everything else, but they weren't involved necessarily in the matters of judgment, all right, concerning the nation or concerning the city. That was reserved to the judges and the officials. Just like today through the spirit, you look at Israelites, or I say Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are Israelites, and you look at their day to day, they're not really concerned about the matters of the world. They're not really concerned about the other nations and what they're doing. They're more concerned with their own personal life. And that's the same. That was similar in ancient Israel. They were keeping the law, statutes, and commandments because that was our culture. But their concern wasn't necessarily, the judgment as a nation of people, the ins and outs and the everyday responsibility of us as a nation of people or a city when you deal with ancient Israel. Because again, Deuteronomy 16 and 18, "Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment." And what you see happening through the spirit is those judges are being restored, like it says in Isaiah, the first chapter. And that's why, the Elder Arawam says very beautifully that this isn't for the casual Israelite, because in ancient Israel, the casual Israelite wasn't necessarily worried about breaking down prophecy. They were worried about the day-to-day matters of their life, maybe their garden, their figs, the harvest, raising up their daughters and their sons, marrying their daughters and their sons, looking at possible candidates. They were entrenched in the affairs of their own personal life within ancient Israel. The judges and the officials were set up to carry about just judgment, whether it be a man who stole from another man, who stole his oxen. The laws go into certain specifics. The judges and the officials were set up, all right, to uphold those things. And the Lord is restoring those judges first and foremost through the spirit. All right, that's that governing body. All right, because in ancient Israel, you had a governing body. Now, I want to touch this. This is Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 7. It says, "Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate." All right. Now, this isn't to say that our people, 2/3 of our people are foolish at this point, but they're more righteous than the wicked, and in the kingdom, they'll be right. They'll be all righteous. But what the Lord is doing is he's restoring those judges as at the first. All right. And that's the beauty of what's happening through the spirit, because again, the spirit of the prophets are subject to the prophets, and those servants of the Lord who were, given the words of Yahweh Shema Shah in the time past, are now being restored in the present. All right. Real quick, this is John 6, and I'm going to jump down to verse 44. And it reads, "No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day." All right. And that's exactly what's happening through the Spirit. Because you go in Isaiah, the first chapter, it says the Lord is restoring thy judges as at the first. All right. Matter of fact, let's go back to it because I want to read the next verse. All right. So we're going to go to Isaiah 1. I'm going to jump down to verse 26, and it reads, "And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness." Now the elect are being gathered and raised up, all right, to have those positions through the Spirit. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. Because when you go into ancient Israel, all right, the average Israelite was involved with their personal life. They were more involved in the affairs of their personal life as opposed to, you know, the responsibility of us as a nation of people. You know, dealing with Ammon, dealing with these other nations. And yeah, Israelites fought, you know, to push the borders, to push our regions, but they weren't necessarily involved in the matters of the bigger picture, so to speak. All right. Similar to now in this day and age, you have Jake who's enlisted in the army. They may actually have to go fight. They fought in these wars, you know, but they're not necessarily involved in the bigger picture concerning these wars. They just sign up and they do what they need to do to get home to their own personal family. Now, the Lord is raising up right now through the Spirit the judges who were in time past judges. Lord willing, we be a part of that number because the scriptures say the Spirit, let's get that. Because if the spirit of the prophets is subject to the prophets, then that means everybody's returning back to their lot. All right. And that includes, all right, the judges. All right. And when you look at the prophets, they are basically judges over Israel. They proclaim the judgment. But in ancient Israel, when we had our own land and our own dwelling places, the Lord set up judges. The same way Esau sits in courtrooms in different districts, cities, states, Supreme Court, federal, whatever the case may be. These are men that are set up to judge and uphold the law in Babylon the Great. How much more so in ancient Israel? All right. And that's why the Lord is setting up that governing body first and foremost. And that's the beauty of it, man. When you look at it, 1 Corinthians 14:32, "And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets." So if that's the case for the prophets, how much more so everybody else, even 2/3 of our people, even those who said, "Let his blood be upon us and our children." Everyone's coming back. But alluding to Isaiah, the first chapter, the Lord is restoring those judges as at the first. Because ultimately 2/3 of our people are really the children of the elect. All right. And the elect are set up as the governing body, the fathers and the mothers, if you will, of the kingdom of heaven under Yahweh Shai. Every man according to his own order through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. But that's what's happening. A nation is being restored, and it begins with the nation's government, that foundation, with the chief cornerstone being Yahweh Shai. All right. And that's the beauty of this. So when you see Isaiah, the first chapter, and when it says he's going to restore those judges as at the first, we understand more deeply through the Spirit that the Lord is doing that. Every brother according to their own measure. Just like in this world, you got those who are a part of the Supreme Court. You got those who are a part of the federal government. You got those who are part of the local government. But they're all set up as judges. You know, matter of fact, man, that reminds me. What did Yahweh Shah say? This is Luke chapter 19. And I'll start at, this is the parable with the, let's start up. Let's go to it. All right, verse 12. Luke 19:12. "He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him saying, We will not have this man to reign over us. And think about that, right? Because that's the children. 2/3 of our people don't want the Lord to reign over them. So check this out. Verse 15, "And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. So when you look at the judges being restored, look at this parable and what Yahushua is saying as far as the reward for the elect. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. Because we're all fighting for that same penny, which is salvation. But in the kingdom of heaven, just like in any nation, you have different offices. That's what's being restored. All right, now let's continue. Verse 18 reads, And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Lord, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith unto him, Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with usury? And he said unto them that stood by, Take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. All right, and this is just showing you that those pounds in this parable were converted. They were rewarded, so to speak, with cities, with authority. All right, because what did the Lord say? All right, this is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So that's showing you that separation. That's showing you that the judges are being raised up first, because you have to remember through the Spirit that the judges had to be raised up in the ancient world. The judges had to govern the city. All right. And through the government of the city, what you had through the Spirit was order. And that's what's happening right now. Order is being established. It first starts with the foundation, like a house. And that foundation is Yahushua being a chief cornerstone, and 144,000, which is that governing body. All right, the elect. All right, because a lot of the innumerable multitude will be women and children. But that 144,000, that's the core governing body, if you will, of the nation of Israel in the kingdom of heaven. Now, all Israel shall be saved, because 2/3 are going to come back as the children of the elect. All right, they won't have the same rank as the elect, but they'll be in immortal bodies and they'll have power as well. And that's the beauty of what's happening through the Spirit. Just like in the days of old, you know, our judges were established at all of our gates, because whether it was a small town or a big city, you needed a judge there to govern the matters between the people, to judge justly. And we're learning about judgment through this lifetime, witnessing the consequences of rebellion, all right, as well as witnessing cities not judged aright. Wherever city is scattered in, you're watching judgment not go forth. All right, it's Galatians 4:1. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. So really, when you look at it, the straight gate is refining and molding those judges. All right, Lord willing, we be a part of that number. And that's what's being established right now through the Spirit. The judges, the elect of the nation of Israel, which will translate into having rulership and dominion under Yahushua. That's why the elder Arawam says that this isn't for the casual Israelite, because this isn't for the normal, regular Israelite that was in the ancient world. All right, this is for the judges that were set up. Now, we don't know where our walk of life was in the ancient world, but ultimately the elect's end destination was to have dominion under Yahushua, being joint heirs. Now, ultimately, the entire nation of Israel is joint heirs. But as the scriptures say, every man according to his order. All right. Matter of fact, let's get that. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 15. I'm going to jump down to verse 22. For as in Adam all die, even so in Hamashiach shall all be made alive. But but every man in his own order. Hamashiach, the first fruits. Afterward, they that are Hamashiachs at his coming. So there's an order to it. Even though Israel is joint heirs, there's still an order to it. And those judges are being established first and foremost, all right, via the elect. Matter of fact, let's go here. This is Psalms 122, and I'll start at 3. Jerusalem is builded as a city that is compact together, whither the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, unto the testimony of Yashar'Allah, to give thanks unto the name of the Lord. For there are set thrones of judgment, the thrones of the house of David. All right, so the elect are being raised up. That tabernacle of David is being raised up. And what is the tabernacle of David synonymous with? Dominion and rulership. Subjecting the heathens, all right, and having rulership and dominion. And that's going to be restored unto Israel under Yahushai. But the elect are a part of that governing body of Yahushai. All right, and when you look at past and present, it's very spiritual. Because just as in the ancient world, 2/3 of our people, they really didn't concern themselves with the matters of prophecy. They didn't really concern themselves with the matters of judgment. Same thing is happening now. All right, real quick. This is Ecclesiasticus 38. In verse 24, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow, and that glorieth in the goad, that driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks? He giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kind fodder. So every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to counterfeit imagery, and to watch to finish a work, the smith also sitting by the anvil, and considering the ironwork, the vapor of the fire wasteth his flesh, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watcheth to polish it. So doth the potter sitting at his work, and turning the wheel about with his feet, who is always careful, set at his work, and maketh all his work by number. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, and boweth down his strength before his feet. He applieth himself to lead it over, and is diligent to make clean the furnace. All these trust in their hands, and every one is wise in his work. Without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will, nor go up and down. They shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit high in the congregation. They shall not sit on the judge's seat, nor understand the sentence of judgment. They cannot declare justice in judgment, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken. Now think about this, right? Because in the ancient world, you had these same offices. But it wasn't for them to be occupied in judgments and justice, to sit in the judge's seat, to understand dark parables. It wasn't given to them. And that's why I said they're occupied in the work of their hands. But without them, a city cannot be built. You think about Jake in this world, whether they're into construction work, being the best rapper, being the best boxer, being the best, basketball player or football player. They're occupied and they're hyper focused in chasing whatever goal that they have based on their own talents, the work of their hands. But the Lord has given the elect, Lord, when we be a part of that number, a mind to be after different things, to be occupied in different things. All right, let's go to that. There's Ecclesiasticus 39:1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of the grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer, and make supplication for his sins. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sentences and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer. Think about that, man. Because right now, people look at the service of the Lord as invaluable, as unvaluable. But this is the reward of the servants of the Lord. Lord, willing we be a part of that number. Whether their office is great or small in the kingdom of heaven, as King David said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper. Because though we are going to live forever, though we're going to have spiritual power, though we're going to be perfect in the flesh, the Lord still is going to order the kingdom. And the elect are part of that foundation to build up the kingdom of heaven. Lord, willing we be a part of that number. Now, I don't mean we're going to physically build it up, because the heathens there's going to be continual employment. You understand, Yet through the spirit, the reward of the servants is going to be dominion, rulership. And though all Israel is going to be perfect in the kingdom of heaven, that's going to separate, the common Israelite from the elect. That foundation is being established, those judges. Like it says in Revelation, the 2nd chapter, he that overcometh, the Lord's going to give them power over the nations. And those judges are being set up now. Whereas 2/3 of our people hear this message and they reject it, and they say in their mind it's vain to serve the Lord. The reward of the servants who are the elect on this side, because the ones who are given to serve the Lord, if they endure to the end, they are the elect. Now the entire nation of Israel are servants, but even then there's order amongst the servants. And all of that goes into building up the kingdom of heaven through the Spirit. The harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Because right now, the laborers, the servants of the Lord, are being used to gather the elect. But once that mission is complete, the servants of the Lord will move to a different mission. And eventually, the kingdom of heaven is going to involve them having dominion to enforce the law across the universe, if you can receive it. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory. You know what? Let's read this. Let's go out with this. It's Isaiah 1:26 again. And it reads, "And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness." All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.